Getting into more serious subjects, I want to get into his inside investigation onto what's really happening with BP. Will you guys reprint me the Kurt Nimmo article? I know you did, but I can't find it, about CBS News reporting that BP contractors won't let people on public beaches to videotape the oil. I mean, this is an example of martial law and tyranny violating the press. This is Obama's open press. We're going to talk about that. We're going to talk about the major political realignment with Specter going down, Grayson, the Republican, going down to Rand Paul, other Republican and Democrat establishment people going down. The media has framed this as if the Tea Party movement is an anti-Democrat thing. But Rick Perry, Senator Cornyn, and others were booed a year and a half ago here in Texas at Tea Parties. But the media has tried to make it a Republican issue so that so-called left feels like they're not part of the political debate, so they automatically are basically given the role of being pro-establishment when we're all in this together. So this clearly shows a realignment, and the system is panicking, and they're trying to use Rand Paul as the figurehead to destroy him. But as I told Salon yesterday, you are out of bullets in the mainstream media. If you're an establishment Republican or Democrat, you are gone come November, Jones said. The good news is that people are coming in from both parties who have much better track records as constitutionalists and don't have these establishment pedigrees. He also warned the media against smearing Paul. The mainstream media doesn't understand. They are out of bullets. When the mainstream media wants to hurt Rand Paul, they should come out and endorse him. When the establishment attacks someone, it only empowers them. So we'll talk about that and what's happening in the markets with Wayne Madsen, WayneMadsenReport.com. He's a D.C.-based investigative journalist, author, syndicated columnist. He's written for The Village Voice, The Progressive, Counterpunch, Online Journal, Corp Watch, Multinational Monitor, News Leader, The Times, The American Conservative. His columns have appeared in the Miami Herald, Houston Chronicle, Philadelphia Inquirer. It goes Atlanta Journal-Constitution. He wrote the Handbook of Personal Data Protection, acclaimed reference book on international data law, genocide and covert operations in Africa. It just goes on and on. He's a regular contributor to ABC, NBC, Russia Today, Al Jazeera, CNN. He's been invited to testify as a witness before the U.S. House of Representatives, the UN Criminal Tribunal, and, of course, he worked with the NSA and a bunch of other federal agencies, the Naval Data Automated Command, Department of State. So we've got him on for the next 25 minutes to go over all these subjects. Wayne Madsen, what do you want to get into first? Of the subjects I mentioned that you've been reporting on, what do you think is most important?
Well, I normally cover, inside the Beltway, Alex, but actually this week I'm in Chicago because there's just a lot of stories about our current president and his, for lack of a better term, his cronies that have just gone unreported by the Chicago papers, which are basically been decimated with Sam Zell basically destroying the Chicago Trib, and the Sun-Times not in very good shape. And so I'm going to be intermittently now in Chicago from time to time to basically help pick up the slack that the few investigative journalists in this city can't get to a lot of these stories. So I'm going to give them a hand. And just in the few days I've been here, all I can say is the person who's in the White House, who we all see, is not the person who is the president. Believe you me.
Well, I mean, weathermen, corrupt poverty pimps, slumlords, mafia. Break down your research of Barack Obama. I mean, if this has got you out of D.C., in Chicago, we know this is big news. What are you ferreting out on Obama?
Well, let's just start with the Blagojevich trial. It's very clear that Blagojevich, like many of his predecessors as governors of Illinois, there's been many who have been indicted, and many have gone to jail. Otto Kerner and Walker and even Blagojevich's predecessor, Republican George Ryan. But when we look at this case against Blagojevich, what we have is Patrick Fitzgerald, who's a dirty U.S. prosecuting attorney here in Illinois, cutting a deal with people like Rahm Emanuel and Obama, put the attention on Blagojevich, only concentrate on certain segments of wiretap information. Don't listen to the other 500 hours of wiretaps that would implicate Mr. Obama, Mr. Emanuel, and others, including Alex Giannoulis, who's running for the U.S. Senate, Obama's good buddy, who's bank, Broadway Bank, failed, and Broadway Bank made one of the loans, the initial loan to Resco. We know that Resco put up the money for Obama to buy this $500,000 home in Hyde Park near the University of Chicago, which is not a bad section, by the way, of the South Side. So what we have is Resco being indicted, Blagojevich being indicted, and it's very clear to me that those indictments should have also been served to Rahm Emanuel, Barack Obama, and potentially an individual who voluntarily gave up her law license rather than face a major civil suit. The records of the Supreme Court of Illinois, the disciplinary board, have been sealed, and the person who voluntarily gave up her law license was Michelle Obama, the First Lady.
You just made me have a double take there. Did you say Rahm Emanuel and Obama, you believe, have been served secret indictments?
No, they should be. They should be. But the concentration, of course, by Fitzgerald, who was kept on, Bush's U.S. attorney, has been on Blagojevich, Resco, and the fair game, when in fact there should be, if we had a decent U.S. attorney here in Northern Illinois who was really interested in going after corruption, we would actually, if it was an honest U.S. attorney, we would have had indictments issued against Obama, Rahm Emanuel, and Valerie Jarrett, who's his policy advisor, and a number of the other cronies, probably including the Secretary of Education, Arnie Duncan. All these people who are Obama's friends and cronies. And I should add that one of them, of course, is Elena Kagan, who now has been nominated for the Supreme Court.
Did they choose Obama not just because he's good-looking and can read off a teleprompter well, but because he's so compromised with all of these mafia connections?
Well, he's totally blackmailed. We can look at his history. 10 years ago, Obama didn't have $10 in his pocket to put gas in his gas tank of his car. By the way, he had this car. It was sold on eBay. Apparently, it only had 22,000 miles on it. But even 22,000 miles, apparently the tires were so beat up. I have to imagine this guy was peeling rubber on the streets of Chicago and running around town. But, here's a guy he and his wife were being harassed by creditors, credit card collection agencies. And they had three salaries. His is Illinois State Senator. His is a part-time professor at the University of Chicago. And her salary, and yet they couldn't make ends meet. I mean, if he couldn't pay his own bills then, maybe that's why he can't pay the country's bills today.
Well, he's admitted to drug use, and there's a lot of evidence that he used a lot of hard drugs. Maybe that's why he didn't have money.
Right, and also there are reports of other extracurricular activities he engaged in here.
Well, Wayne, you've always got some of the best sources out there, and it would be a big blackmail tool. But, I mean, is there credible evidence you're starting to run into that he is bisexual?
Yes. And it's known here in Chicago. It's known among members of the African-American community. Let's just say, where was the media? Unfortunately, the Chicago media couldn't go very far on this because of what's happened to many of the reporters at the Chicago Tribune have been laid off because of this slumlord real estate tycoon Sam Zell, and of course the Chicago Sun-Times basically up for grabs. They've gone through a huge reduction in staff.
So you're there on this story. Shifting gears again, what's the word in Washington on Elena Kagan? Is she just somebody they're throwing out there with no judicial experience, who's anti-free speech, anti-Second Amendment, knowing that she'll just take all the fire, and then who they really want will come in after her? Or do you think they're really this arrogant to try to put her in?
No, because you see who they're lining up. They're lining up all the judicial experts and Bar Association cronies are all saying, "Oh, she's so wonderful." I think she's going to get in, but see, Lyndon Johnson put Abe Fortas on the court, but he had to finally step down because he got implicated in all kinds of scandals and crony deals.
And she's involved. She's involved with Goldman Sachs up to her eyebrows.
Yeah, but see, they know that today you can't get rid of somebody on the court like they did Abe Fortas, because once there's there now, you could get them for evidence of being an axe murderer, and it would probably it would probably be impossible to get them off the court.
Now, the media needs to go ahead and bring out the fact that she is a lesbian so that they can't use that against her for blackmail later. I mean, isn't it important for her to come out with her sexuality? I mean, how controlled is the media that only CBS News has reported on this?
Yeah, I mean, the media is totally controlled. And, the people in the legal community who are coming to her defense and praising her.